Good morning, dear participants, dear students. Today we are going to conduct our last lecture on the literature of England, and our today's lecture is going to be focused on the literature of 21st century. I'm going to give you some information about the main points of main changes of the literature of 21st century. Then we are going to discuss some representatives of this period. So first of all, I would like to give you some ideas about the literature itself. So let me start with the plan of our today's lecture. So the literature of the early 21st century. And today we are going to talk about mainly the literature of the early 21st century, and we are going to discuss three representatives of this period. They are Ellen Bennett, David Mitchell, and Zadie Smith. As you see, 21st century, which means modern literature, and we are going to discuss some of the representatives of that period. Now look at these slides. In these slides you can see some main changes in the literature of 21st century. As you see, issues which discussed this period literature were connected with contemporary issues such as global warming, international conflict, and writers still were more disposed to look back, though they concerned about modern topics as well. So, as famous books, as famous novels written in that century, we can mention Ellen Bennett's play, The History Boys. We'll talk about it later. And I should also mention that most literature written in this century were put into a film. That's why they became very famous. And as we mentioned, Bennett's play, The History Boys, also were filmed in 2006. And it portrayed pupils in a school in the north of England during the 1980s. And the film was premiered in 2004 and got its fame. Another example we can mention is Cloud Atlas, which was written in 2004 by David Mitchell, and it also contained the topics which envisage future. It described technology and climactic nuclear devastation, and most of the scenes of this book were devoted to space, set in the 19th and the early 20th centuries. Also, we can mention some topics which were still imitating the themes or topics of the previous centuries, as Victorian novels, for example, Michael Faber's The Crimson Battle and the White. It was one of the prominent examples of this century. And also, if we compare literature of 20th century with 21st century, writers seem to find greater stimulus in the past rather than in the future or in the present. Now let's talk about the representatives. So the first representative of this century is Ellen Bennett. So he's still alive. He was born in May 9th, 1934 in Leeds, Yorkshire. He's a British playwright, and he was best known for The Madness of George, written in 1991, and The History Boys, written in 2004. The latter was filmed, as I mentioned before. As a boy, Ellen attended Leeds Modern School, and he gained a scholarship to Exeter College, Oxford, and there he got his degree in history in 1957. But he didn't want to continue his career as a lecturer in history at Magdalen College, and he enjoyed his success with a comedy which he wrote in 1960, Beyond the Fringe. He also co-authored and starred in the show with Peter Cook, Jonathan Miller, Dudley Moore, and he also played to packed house in Edinburgh, London. So he mainly devoted his life to writing and playing in the plays. So, and if we talk about his literary career, we have to mention some of his famous books. They are 40 Years On, which was written in 1968, and it was followed by numerous plays, films, and television serials. And even some of his writings were put into radio shows. In 1987, he wrote a series of monologue for TV, which is called Talking Heads, and made him household name. And after some time, he earned his first of 6 Laurence Olivier Awards. This award was established in 1976 as a theater award, and it was conducted annually, and he got his first award on this awards. Third is The Madness of George III. It was premiered in National Theatre in 1991, and the 1994 film adaptation was also awarded with Academy Award nominations. And his play The History Boys also earned him some Critical Circle Theatre Award and Laurence Olivier Award for the Best New Play. Now, second representative of 21st century writing is David Mitchell. He was born in 1969 in Lancashire, England. He is considered an English author whose novels are noted for their lyrical prose style, complex structures. So, as a boy, he was raised in a small town in England, in Worcestershire. He didn't speak until age 5, and he was considered to develop a stammer by age 7, and that's why he was given to a special teacher who developed his speech. He attended the University of Kent. There he received his Bachelor of Arts in English and American Literature and his master degree in comparative literature. So in 1994, he began an 8-year stay in Japan, where he taught English as a second language and dedicated himself to writing. Now, if we talk about his books, we should mention his first published work, Ghost Written, which was written in 1999. It is a collection of interconnected narratives, and it took place in a variety of locations of the book. And his work won him the John Leland Rice Prize, as he was a fiction writer, author under 35 years of age. Next one is Number 9 Dream. It's a story about a Japanese man searching for his missing father, told in a manner that makes it unclear. And if the action takes place in reality of the narrator's mind, it also won him a big praise from critics. Third of his books, which made him famous, was Cloud Atlas. It was shot in a film in 2012. It was written in 2004, and it was his breakthrough work. Hailed by some reviewers as modern masterpiece upon its publication, Cloud Atlas consists of a series of 6 interlinked stories written in different styles and told by different people and put into one collection. And another work of him is Black Swan Green, a relatively straightforward buildings roman that semi-autobiographically follows a stammering 30-year-old growing up in Worcestershire in the 1980s. If you remember, in our previous lectures, we talked about a style called buildings roman. And if you remember, it was kind of novel, a series of novels where a main hero, a main character, personage of the novel grows from very modest, very inexperienced person into experienced and major person. So how the character changes throughout the events of the story. That is called buildings roman. And if you remember, Mitchell himself had a problem with speaking. That's why it says semi-autobiographical novel, because he describes 30-year-old stammering boy. So another of his books, we should mention The Thousand Autumns of Jacob the Zoo, The Bone-Clothed Slate House. Now, the last representative is Zadie Smith, and as you see, he is a young modern writer, and she has also written a series of books. So she is originally comes from Jamaican mother and English father, and she changed her original Sadie into Zadie when she was 14. And from the childhood, she started writing poems, stories, and later studied English literature at University of Cambridge. And she became very famous with her first novel, White Teeth, in 2000. So, and here we can see some examples of her works. Now I would like to present you a short video where you can see the interview between Zadie Smith and